And welcome back to my channel. Unless you're new here, and then just welcome. My name is Rusty, and this is my channel where I talk about my favorite movies, mostly horror, and my favorite music, mostly metal. And welcome back to another masterpiece spotlight. I'm very, very excited to talk about this film, and that is The Gift. 10 out of 10, no doubt about it. The Gift was released in 2000. It stars Cate Blanchett, Giovanni Ribisi, Keanu Reeves, Katie Holmes, Greg Kinnear, and Hilary Swank. That's a nice cast. You know what I'm saying? So, this movie revolves around Annabelle Wilson, Annie, and she is blessed with a psychic ability that she uses in cartomancy, which is where you do tarot readings, but not with tarot cards. You use regular deck of cards or other kind of special cards. So, through the use of cartomancy, she does fortune telling. She does readings for people. This is to help support herself and her 3 young sons after the death of her husband. Now, the first person we're introduced to is Valerie. That's Hilary Swank. She is married to Donnie, which is Keanu Reeves, who horrifically beats her all the time. I will say right here that I've seen Keanu Reeves play an asshole a few times, but this is the one movie I have never before nor since seen Keanu Reeves play such an evil, straight up, waste of breath asshole as he is in this movie. Because I can't imagine anyone who would not absolutely despise Donnie in this movie. So, she likes to come by for readings, but it also, he hates that she does that. He calls her a witch and a Satanist and all kind of stuff all the time, saying bad stuff. We're introduced to Wayne, who informs her, he's the principal at school. He informs her that her oldest son is having problems. She goes, and it's, that his name is Mike, and that he's still upset about his dad. We get introduced to Jessica, who is Wayne's fiancée. She's a little rich brat girl of town, and that's played by Katie Holmes, who is just so young. She looks about 15 in the movie. But while she's meeting her in the principal's office, she has a vision of Jess's death. It's just some kind of vision about water and a rotten body and stuff like that. So it freaks her out. We're introduced to Buddy, played by Giovanni Ribisi. On the way home, she needs to stop because her door won't shut, and we're introduced to the character Buddy at that point. He is a mechanic who has some serious issues. And another interjection here is that when it comes to playing legit crazy, not psychotic, not that kind of thing, I'm talking about a damaged, disturbed person. Sad, mental issues. Nobody can do it like Giovanni Ribisi. I don't know why, but that boy can play a person with serious issues very, very well. So, he has a breakdown on the way home begging for her help. And he's always obsessed with this blue diamond. And he is obsessed over that, and to get him to calm down, he makes her tell him that, As long as he will look into a blue diamond, nothing bad will happen. As long as he looks into the blue diamond, nothing bad will happen. And he's constantly obsessed over that line. Like, he'll feel better if you'll agree with him that as long as he looks into a blue diamond, nothing bad will happen. So we find out what that's all about, and it's not pretty. So Donnie shows up at her house and threatens her and tells her not to read for Valerie anymore. He calls her a witch and a Satan worshiper and all that. Valerie shows up anyway to try to keep her reading for her. He shows up right behind her, beats the absolute hell out of her, and drags her back into the truck. Let me say, Donnie is like, never mind. I won't tell you what I'd have done to him, but that's one of those people. Donnie is one of those people that it's just better. It's just better. There ain't no saving it. He's one of those rare people that it's just better if the locals just gather together and go, look, he just needs to go. I mean, just for the sake of everybody and the world in general. And please don't let him breed, But yeah, he's one of them. So he shows up, beats the hell out of her, throws her into the truck. She sees a vision when she's in the backyard of her grandmother, her dead grandmother. And it's so real, and it kind of freaks her out. And she tells her to just trust her instincts because there's a storm on the way. And she ain't lying. So, yeah. Now, she ends up going to Wayne at this party. She ends up going with her friend to a party, one of the rare times she gets to go out. And she talks with Wayne. Jess is there. And she talks with Wayne, and he has an interesting question that you would probably ask yourself. And that is that, if you're psychic, if you're a fortune teller, like, why aren't you rich? Why don't you know the lottery numbers? And stuff like that. But his question to her is a very, very legitimate one. And that is that, can't you read your own husband? I mean, how did you let him go to work that day to get blown up? He died in a explosion at the factory he worked at. Well, his question was sort of like, didn't you see that coming? How come you couldn't stop that? And she tries to explain to him that it doesn't work that way, that the only thing that she experienced was that she had a bad dream the night before about her being alone, not knowing where he was, and afraid. And that's the only sign she had. So he's like, she's like, it's not that clear. It doesn't come like that. So that she had just had the bad dream and he had died the next day. At home, she finds out that someone had broke in and vandalized her room with Satan across the bed and cards and stuff like that. Cops, of course, ignore her about Donnie because it's the good old boys. She ends up reading for Buddy, who is talking about his dad. And she's getting more and more stressed with the stuff that's going on, right? So she's not being quite as attentive to Buddy as she should have been because of Valerie and Donnie and these people, which I'd have got rid of him too. I'd have never let that Valerie girl come back. You want to stay there and get the hell beat out of you? That's fine, but don't come back to me, involving me. Don't be bringing that waste of breath redneck around my house no more. That would have been my tell. I'm sorry, honey. That black eye and shit, you need to take that home if you're not going to do anything about it. I say shoot the motherfucker, but whatever. You got to deal with it the way you want to. So she's trying to deal with Buddy and reading for him, and he's talking about his dad, and she keeps telling me, you got some kind of issue with your daddy, man, and you need to deal with it, yeah? And she keeps trying to say, you have got to, like, tear down this wall, and you have got to, like, deal with whatever your issue is, 'cause ain't no reason for you to be this crazy. That's exactly what she was saying, So, Donnie calls and threatens her again. She has a strange dream the next day, and learns that Jess has went missing. That's the daughter of the guy, of the rich guy in town. That's the fiance that we had met. This is Katie Holmes' character. So she's gone missing, and she had just had a bad vision the day before. So she's gone missing. Her middle son, her youngest son got into that cake icing, which was funny. So she sent her middle son to go ask for another one. Well, while he was walking down the road to a neighbor's house, Donnie pulls up in this Bronco with his friend. And that man is so evil because he scares the shit out of that little boy, and telling him that he felt sorry for him, his mama being a witch, and that somebody was going to burn her up, and if she didn't change her evil ways, and then he'd be left with nobody. Well, unbeknownst to them, Buddy, who, remember, she was reading for, Buddy had just pulled up behind him, and he, like, leans out the window, and he's like, is everything all right? And Buddy hollers at him to shut up and mind his own business. Well, the little boy turns to Buddy and says, he said Mama's a witch and somebody's going to burn her up and we're going to be left all alone and stuff like that. And Buddy's like, really? Is that so? So he gets out with a crowbar and he just walks up there and he just starts beating the shit out of that Bronco, busting the windows, all kind of stuff. Buddy pulls out like a revolver and puts it on his, like, right here. And Buddy, like, grabs it and is like, shoot me, fucking shoot me, motherfucker. And you're like, okay. There's a little kid watching all this, y'all. Try to look out for the baby, all right? I mean, y'all just letting y'all's emotions get completely out of hand. So that was like a really intense. And Buddy did know that because, of course, Keanu, bullies, they drove off. They can be all bullying shit till you start beating their Bronco to death with a fucking crowbar, and then they decide they got somewhere else to be. That's a bully for you. But when they did pull off and he asked the little boy if he was all right, the little boy took off, and you could see it on his face that he was like, okay, I think that was a little much in front of the kid, But so he did feel bad about it. But so they haul ass. Interestingly enough, as much as people like talk bad about Annie Wilson being a witch and a fortune teller and all, Jess's dad actually calls and wants her to read for him to try to help. Even brings the sheriff, who's a dipshit from hell too. Then they're all dipshits. So she tries to do the reading, but the stupid sheriff keeps, like, interfering and saying shit, and she can't get it straight. She can't really get anything to done right. Yeah, I said, but she can't read correctly due to the asshole sheriff. So she does manage to see waters and pillars and a gate and these white magnolias and irises. So that's all she can tell them, though, because, like I said, she can't really read with that asshole sheriff in the room. So she ends up asking, like, does any of that place sound familiar? And then she said there was a fiddler, because there was a fiddler in that vision. And he said, well, actually, I do know a property like that. But the fiddler, and she's like, no, the fiddler is not involved. And he goes, oh, well, in that case, there is a guy that's next to land like that, right by Donnie's house. So they go out there, and Valerie gave them permission while he was off hunting or whatever. And they find Jess's body in the swamp, in the pond, just like in her vision. Very, very ugly. It was terrible. It was very, very terrible. The dad had a damn heart attack. You know, her dad had a heart attack when they pulled her up. Get those hooks out of my baby. You know, because they're dragging the pond, so that actually hooked her body. And it was like, get those hooks out of my baby. It felt really bad for him. You know. So, they end up finding her body. And Donnie shows up, actually punches Annie in the gut. Sheriff pulls a gun on him, and they arrest him. And now he's going to be put on trial. Now, when the district attorney calls her in because she's going to have to testify, and he wants to know what she's going to say, because you know the defense is going to rip you apart about this vision that made them able to find the location of this body. Well, when she walks in, she realizes that the DA is the guy that she saw Jess screwing in the bathroom at that party where she talked to Wayne outside. You know, she none of her business, so she wasn't going to tell nobody. But she realizes that that district attorney is the guy that was screwing Jess in the bathroom that she walked in on. And she's like, okay. So she uses that to her advantage later on as well. So they have a discussion about that. He explains to her that she's probably going to be attacked a lot about her gift in court and how her involvement in this case. So Annie gets a phone call. Buddy is getting worse. You know, after she leaves the DA's room, I got lost there for a second. So, after she gets out of the DA's office and she's walking out the courthouse, Donnie is outside. And he's getting worse. You know, he's getting worse. And he keeps trying to get her attention, but as you can imagine, she is going through absolute hell with all this stuff. She's got half the town screaming at her in the parking lot, calling her a witch and shit. So, but it's a very disturbing exchange because she stops long enough to listen to him, you know, and he's like that he needs to ask her something. He says that he wants to know why he does things to himself when he's thinking about his daddy. And now, despite everything going on around her, she's like, what? So even with all this stuff going on, that's a statement that like made her like, what? And he begins to say, you know, in a very secretive like tone, you know, that's like, I touch myself when I think about my daddy. Why do I do that? And she's like, oh, honey, I don't know. I don't know, baby. Look, I've got to talk to you later because, and this bomb, I don't know what to do, honey. I got to be in court and people are going to be calling me a witch and shit. I'm liable to get burnt up in this town. And you're going to sit here and talk about you touching yourself and you think about your daddy. I don't know what to say, you know, and I'm like right there with you, you know. So she can't help right now. And then that night, though, she really should have, because that night, Buddy goes nuts and they call her. It's Buddy's mama calls her and says that she has tied up his dad out in the backyard and is beating him with a belt and stuff like that. And so she goes to try to help, and his mama was also screaming like he's going to set him on fire and stuff. So she goes out there to help try to stop him, and that's like what a scene. You know, I mean, what a scene that was. And he's saying all of this weird stuff, how could you do that to your baby boy? And I was just a baby, daddy. And you felt so fucking bad for him, right? And the mom tries to stop him, and he knocks the fuck out of her. And Annie tries to stop him, and he even knocks her down. And they can't get to him in time. And he does set his daddy on fire, but they manage to put it out before it hurts him too bad or all. But here's the thing: when he does do that, and she runs around the man, he's got a big blue diamond tattooed right above his belly button. So right there is a big blue diamond with little shiny sparks, coming off this big blue diamond right above his belly button. And when she sees that, right, you heard what he said, she heard what he said. So pretty much at the same time that it's come across her, it comes across you as well. And that is, oh my God. The reason Buddy, okay, if I look into a blue diamond, nothing bad will happen. Well, there's only one position you can be in to be looking into that blue diamond. You know what I mean? So obviously he's been molested since he was a little kid. And as long as he did what he was told and just looked into the blue diamond, he wouldn't get beaten, right? So, well, that was disturbing. There's already stuff to be disturbed about in this movie. You just had to add that onto it. So, he gets taken to jail. I wrote tattoo in the middle of belly button, and then I put in parentheses self-explanatory. Yeah, it's pretty much self-explanatory. He does set him on fire, but the cops arrive, they extinguish, he's all right, and Buddy is arrested while the dad goes to the hospital. Now, we then see Annie have to testify, and that was pretty interesting. She has to testify. The defense rips her to shreds, being a smart ass about her visions and, the crap that you could expect people would say about it. And then the jury comes back and convicts Donnie. So he is actually convicted of the murder of Jess, especially since she had been screwing him too. I mean, I think this girl was screwing everybody in town. She was screwing the DA, she was screwing the principal of school, and she was screwing this swamp redneck. So, I don't know what's up with Jess, man, but she was in need. So she stays strong throughout the trial. He is convicted. Valerie does show up begging for forgiveness and asks for a reading. And the whole situation is not what it seems. When she was doing that reading for Valerie, she starts seeing more visions, and the visions kind of tell her that things are not settled, that this is not correct, and that the situation is a lot more than it seems. So that was kind of sucky, because of look at all is what has happened. And she actually, I guess, thought that she was going to finally get to buy some groceries from the Piggly Wiggly and go home and eat dinner with her kids and finally not have a bunch of stress, but things are not done for the woman yet. So now she's gotten visions that Donnie did not kill Jess. Yes, it was in his pond on his land, but he didn't do it. And because she's such a good person, and because the visions are telling her that he didn't do it, he's an asshole, but he didn't do it. The person who did do it is going to kill you if you don't get the right person. So that's kind of her fear. So she goes back to the DA and tells him about that. And she's like, you trusted me. They trusted my visions to find her body. I suggest you trust my visions when I tell you that you don't have the right guy. I don't like him, but I'm not going to be responsible for putting somebody in prison that is not guilty, and he didn't do it, right? So, he's like, well, I can't do that. And she's like, well, guess what? You will do that, or I will do that, or this whole town will know that you were screwing Jess because I saw you in the bathroom. Remember, I told you a while ago she had used that to her advantage later. She said, I know, I saw, and I don't think that the voters in this county are going to be happy that you were also on that train. You know what I'm saying? So she then goes to try to check on Wayne, right? Jess's fiance. And she does kind of like him, and he kind of likes her, but she goes to try to check on him, and they can't really, she tries to help him out, and he comes and wants her to read for him, and she's like, you'll be all right, and all of this kind of stuff. But then she tells him about that. She tells him about not believing that Donnie was the one who did it. The next day, as she shows back up to her house, there's Buddy, right, in the bushes outside her house. And it freaks her out because she knows that he was sent to the mental institution, and yet he's there in her yard. So it's kind of a spooky scene, and then somebody comes out the door, and it turns out to be Wayne. And he wants to talk with her more about these visions, saying that Donnie was not the one who killed Jessie, or Jessica. So she tries to read again, and she can't really get anything, although she gets a very, very bad feeling. And then that's when he suggests, what if we go back to the place? Would that make it better? And she said, yeah, probably. I mean, if I go to the spot where she was found, it probably would be, I could probably, get more. So they go to the pond. And when she gets there, she feels that it's finally opening up and the visions are coming. And she realizes during this that Wayne is also seeing her having these visions. And these visions are telling her, showing her that Wayne is the one who murdered Jess and then put her in the pond. He sees that she sees, and he knows. So he tries to kill her. He bashes her on the head with a torch, and he starts to hit her again and kill her. But Buddy intervenes and grabs his hand and knocks him out. And then she asks him, where did you come from? And he said that he had escaped. That he had escaped from the mental institution, from the hospital. That he had escaped, and that he was there to take care of her. That he had come by to see her and saw what was going down. And followed him out there. So they tie him up and put him in the trunk, put him in the boot of the car, and they go back to town. She then goes in there and talks to the sheriff, and he goes out, he comes back a little bit, and he tells her that they had gotten him out of the trunk, and that Wayne pretty much admitted to everything, and that, wow, and so she tells him, well, you need to take Buddy back to the hospital, and he's like, ma'am, Buddy's not out there. And she's like, well, he was, but you still got to get him and take him back to the hospital. And he's like, no, ma'am, Buddy did not help you. And she's like, yes, he did. He was there. You think I can pick that big man up and put him in the boot of the car? You know, he was there. He saved my life. And he's like, ma'am, Buddy did not help you because Buddy is dead. He committed suicide in the hospital earlier today. He was not out there with you. Well, okay. Now, she reaches in her pocket and she pulls out the baby bib. If you remember way back in this story, when I told you he had the breakdown when she stopped to get her door fixed and he had the breakdown in the truck, all right, he tried to wipe his face with his dirty grease mechanic rag, and she handed him one of her youngest kids' baby bibs, you know, the little fluffy baby bibs. And so he had taken that from her. He gave that back to her on the drive back from where this all happened, you know, where they knocked Wayne out, where Wayne tried to kill her. And so she reaches in there, and that fucking baby bib is in her pocket. So, you know what I'm saying? It really was Buddy. It was his ghost or apparition or something. But he saved her life. And it was real because he gave her the damn baby bib, and there it is in her jacket. So that was really cool. So he had killed himself earlier that day, and that was his ghost. She knows because he had given back the baby bib she had lent him earlier in the film, which was now still in her pocket. And then she drives on home, and everything has been cleared up. That is a masterpiece. This film is perfect. Everything about it is perfect. The cast is perfect. The writing is glorious. The acting from each one of these individuals is amazing. And it would definitely keeps you at the very top. And there it is right there, 10 out of 10. The Gift from 2000, Cate Blanchett, Giovanni Ribisi, Keanu Reeves, Katie Holmes, Greg Kinnear, Hilary Swank. You'll recognize that damn sheriff too. Probably, and several of the other people as well. The DA, I recognized him too. But yeah, it's a like star-studded cast of some of the best fucking actors ever. And they all come together in a piece of celluloid magic that is beyond the pale. And that is The Gift. And I will see you in the next thing I do. Love you, miss you, bye. Always remember and never forget, just like Annie Wilson, you are a very special person with special gifts all your own. Don't let anyone ever tell you different. Love you, miss you, bye-bye. And I'll see you in the next thing I do. Bye. Get out. Go ahead.